Not too long back, VOX released a video analyzing some of the flaws in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's a good video, and I'll be linking it in the description below. In response to this, Captain Midnight on YouTube released a retort video countering points brought up by VOX. I'll be linking his video below too. Now, I will admit I dislike the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and if I had to choose a side in this little debacle, I'd jump on over with VOX. But looking at this argument as a whole, and while I agree with VOX's view, I can't necessarily say their video is right. Captain Midnight has a very solid rebuttal on his hands, one that, in all honesty, I'd be afraid to go up against. If you're unfamiliar with these two videos, VOX suggests the problem with the MCU lies in the nature of shared universes, and the techniques used to connect them. Basically that Marvel feels empty because of loose strands connecting movies and characters. Captain Midnight refutes just about every claim, and, might I add, well. I don't think VOX was entirely wrong. In fact, I think the nature of their video was on track to a complete and thorough analysis of the actual issues within the MCU. I want to suggest that VOX's analysis was just looking at the wrong area, and that what they say is the weakest link is actually far from the truth. In this essay, I'm going to suggest that Marvel's problem lies almost everywhere else. For starters, I want to take a look at characters. This is something VOX failed to touch on, and something that I believe is the reason people see these movies. Quite frankly, they're flat. They're uninspired and uninteresting. There's an almost reliance on the way they look to sell them as characters. Think about the way Marvel markets costumes over people. Think about the trailer for Age of Ultron. It doesn't bring up any moral or emotional issues that may be faced in the movies. Rather, the flashy new suits, the shiny new Ultron.
Tangled in strings.
And the brand spanking new Hulkbuster armor. The Captain Marvel and Spider-Man Far From Home costume pictures were leaked far before any actual footage, and I saw more hype for those than I did Captain Marvel's actual trailer. I think Marvel recognizes that people enjoy the look more than the substance, and don't put much effort into developing a character at all. Steve Rogers is patriotic and a hero, but what about beyond that? What morals does he ever really learn? How does he ever grow as a character? What depth or intrigue is there to this? Now, I don't want to say movies can't be fantastic without a protagonist facing a major character arc. Just Wright discussed this idea more in depth in Writing Characters Without Character Arcs, and to get the full idea of what I'm talking about, I suggest you check it out. I'll link that one below too. He proposes that in order to pull off a strong story without the protagonist undergoing a complete character change, the supporting characters around them must do so, and it must be the protagonist's doing. This seems to be something most Marvel movies fail to do. For a majority of these movies, the hero keeps their same set of morals, save maybe learning a new skill set, and the villain never learns and dies in a flashy, dramatic way. The only deviation from this is maybe Iron Man 3 or Homecoming, where both protagonists learn they don't need a fancy suit to be a hero. And even then, let's be honest, it's the same arc. In the end, this results in bland, vague heroes that we can't really connect with. No character traits go deeper than surface level. Peter Parker is a teenager that wants to impress Stark. Stark is an asshole alcoholic that shoots lasers at bad guys because he has lasers. Bruce Banner is a meek scientist. The Hulk is a green rage monster. Thor is sometimes goofy and lovable, sometimes dark and brooding. There's no reason for either, just directorial choices. And Black Panther, I don't really know. Is a good guy? Saves people? There's nothing there. The deepest they allow a character to get is maybe Thanos, whose motives are still villainous and so wildly unrealistic it's hard to connect to. Ultimately, the characters the MCU presents to us are more flash than substance, and it doesn't stop at characters. The Marvel Cinematic Universe cares more about wowing us with visuals than giving us a well-rounded original story with any depth or actual meaning to it. Take, for example, as a microcosm of what I'm talking about, this shot from Infinity War of New York City. In the movie itself, it's just an establishing shot, yet it's tilted a full 180 degrees for, frankly, no reason at all. You could argue it's to create a sense of vertigo, but nothing in the setting has been presented to really validate this, and it will be some time before anything does. More than anything, this was a shot that was meant to look cool. Their quote-unquote trailer shot. It has no cinematic significance. And ultimately, that's all Infinity War, and by extension, the MCU, seems to be. Flashy battle sequence after flashy battle sequence with run-of-the-mill forced drama with some even more forced comedy sprinkled in to make audiences feel like this movie had it all. Yet under that thin layer of spectacle, there's no real substance or importance. It doesn't feel real, grounded. As the MCU goes on, this becomes more and more notable. With the introduction of Guardians of the Galaxy, it's expanded to accommodate a more science fiction tone, which wildly goes against the real world, maybe it could happen here tone the first Iron Man set up. And as the movies moved back to being set on Earth, the technological advancements set in place by apparently only Tony Stark rocketed the grittier feel of the first Marvel movies into more cartoony, wildly over-the-top futuristic movies, where entire cities can be hidden for centuries under a hologram of trees. Now, I don't want to say that the problem here is that the tone is cartoony. That's not a problem, especially if they make it a stylistic choice and stick to it. But the Marvel Cinematic Universe has failed to carry over tone to the visual aspects of their movie. We'll get scenes like this from Black Panther, where all the emotional buildup is working to get resolved. We're supposed to feel for both of these characters, maybe root for them, but most of all believe that they are in this situation because their clashing morals and opposing viewpoints have finally bubbled up to the point that neither can hold back anymore. Yet the visuals are goofy and unrealistic. You could argue it's due solely to the poor CGI, but I could argue that there's no real purpose for this scene to even take place here. There are unbelievable stakes in an unbelievable environment with an unbelievable feud. It's Marvel's attempt at covering over their total lack of emotional core with glossy visuals. And that there is another issue in the MCU, no emotional core. Marvel movies seem to refuse to let emotion grow and become something meaningful. They're almost self-conscious to let emotion flourish. And it's how we end up with never-ending quips and half-assed gags in the middle of emotional scenes. This dramatic scene where two maybe lovers are learning that there's a very possible future they never see each other again is immediately undercut with a minute-long, almost joke of Drax thinking he's invisible when he stands still. It's scenes like this that just prove Marvel is scared to let the audience feel what they would naturally feel. Actual emotion is thrown out the window because developing an emotional scene into something worthwhile and interesting is too much of a risk. They can't guarantee the audience will be entirely on board, so they play it safe and keep the overall emotional tone watered down and safe. And really, that's what everything boils down to. The Marvel Universe doesn't feel empty because of loose or even too strong connecting points, rather a fear to break the status quo and push boundaries. Every character, every arc, every story is bland and unimaginative, and does nothing to push their universe or filmmaking as a whole forward. Creative choices are damned, and any actual effort to do something new with the expansive blank canvas of filmmaking is thrown out the window. That's why the MCU feels empty. Not because of weak links, but an overcautious nature that removes the possibility of taking any meaningful risks. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then go ahead and subscribe, like, and comment to our channel. There's a new video every Thursday. You can also check us out on social media at M3Movies on both Twitter and Instagram. Go ahead and support our Patreon too, which you can find at patreon.com/M3Movies. That's patreon.com/M3Movies. Thank you for watching. I'm Jack from M3Movies, and I hope you enjoyed.